What's up, guys? Today finally came. I just got done watching the movie last night, but it was, well, to give you a hint of how I feel about it, it was so interesting. I had to watch it twice in one night. Then I went to bed about 1 a.m., thought about it all this morning, and now I'm going to finally talk about the movie. And the movie in question, of course, is Godzilla the Planet Eater, the final installment in the Godzilla anime trilogy. And, well, to give you a heads up, this review will be the first part more just a general spoiler free, and then at a certain point I will talk about the details, well, spoilers. So don't worry, I'll let you know. Or if you've seen the movie, just listen in the entire thing. In any case, this is easily the best of the trilogy, and the whole trilogy obviously has been leading up to this. In fact, it's amazing to me how these movies have gotten progressively better with each one. Godzilla Monster Planet, I thought, was a very awesome, unique film with a great design to it, great music. Godzilla City Edge of Battle, which challenged the themes of most Godzilla movies, was a little slow at times, but also really good music, really good character development for Haru and a few others. But overall, I thought it was a very solid Godzilla movie. And then we finally got to this one, and boy, all I can say is the payoff was incredibly worth it. In that sense, to me, it felt like kind of like Hellsing Ultimate, where yeah, the first few parts, episodes like the first five are really good, and then you get into the whole Ceres and Pip thing back at the Helsing Manor, and then things get really dark. And by the time you get back to London with Alucard there, Walter, all of them, it just turns almost into a whole other series. It's just this really big, epic journey that comes to a very satisfying conclusion, and that's how I felt about this movie. Also, like I said, which I guess I finally understood more better than ever with this movie, is that this movie, okay, if you're a type of person who thinks like Godzilla 14 was boring, Shin Godzilla was boring, this isn't for you. You will not like this movie. You will think there's too much talking, not enough action, not enough Godzilla. That will be your view, obviously, and that much has shown in the reviews for the first two films, which once again, like many Godzilla movies of late, completely split the fan base down the middle. This movie is more for people who enjoyed Shin Godzilla, who really love the original 1954 film, and I would say just for people who enjoy hard science fiction. And for those who don't know, what is hard science fiction? Hard science fiction is science fiction that tends to be more focused towards real science in very how would I say it, in very applicable ways that tend to lean more towards like I said, real science and less Star Wars. So some examples of films that lean that way are 2001: The Space Odyssey pretty much set the milestone for that, and then recently we have films like Interstellar, which are very two of my favorite movies ever. Interstellar definitely being up there for me. Interstellar is basically like the modern day 2000: Space Odyssey, as I said in a review probably in the past, or if I haven't before. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. Interstellar, very good. And like I said, so this Godzilla movie leads more towards hard science fiction as opposed to something more Star Wars-esque or, Lord forbid, Final Wars, which also took place in the future, but was silly and just not one of my favorite Godzilla movies. Don't get me wrong, I'm just not here to bash Godzilla Final Wars in this video, though. I've already done that before. But no, that's what you're getting into with this trilogy. And for what you get, that's the thing about this movie that I loved about it so much. It is unique beyond words. In a day and age where movies tend to not take risk, in fact, some could say movies have a cookie cutter format, this definitely breaks the mold. And like I said, this is a movie that I'm not expecting it to become like a cult. Well, I think this will become a cult classic, but I mean to say is that I don't think it will go down as like many kinds of ideas as the best Godzilla movie ever, something like that. But to me, in my mind, it will always be cemented for how ambitious it was. And quite honestly, after watching it, I really actually do think it is one of the uh, best Godzilla movies, honestly, which is really strange because the first two I thought were really good. I'm not sure if they were one of the best by any means, but I enjoyed them quite a bit. But this one, for me, is actually really up there. And I gotta say, this movie made me feel many things. Uh, for one thing, I was very much tripping out because how hardcore we went right at the beginning. But really, I just want to end a spoiler-free review right here so I can get to the meat of that story. So if you haven't seen the movie yet, definitely go on Netflix. You can watch it in sub or dub. When it comes to Godzilla movies, I pretty much prefer sub these days. Now, if I'm watching actual anime, I guess you would call it, well, non-Godzilla anime, I usually prefer dub. I know that for Dragon Ball, Hellsing, uh, Evangelion, all those I usually just prefer English dub. But for this series, Godzilla movies, I've always preferred sub, well, at least in recent years, once I started buying my own copies. So yeah, see the movie. Now, to the spoiler section. This was a pretty freaking, like I said, going back to the originality of it. Let's talk about the first, I guess, only monster co-star in this movie, Ghidorah. Not King Ghidorah in this movie, Ghidorah, God of the Void, as he's called in this movie. Wow, that shocked me how well that was done because I love the writing. To me, really was on point with that whole part. Ghidorah wasn't just a monster in this; he was a literal god, more or less. And the way it was handled was just, to me, epic. Like, seriously, I haven't felt this impressed with a monster since maybe Destroyer, I'd say, honestly, as far as an opponent for Godzilla, which is weird because this is still very much Ghidorah, but what they did with him was so different and unique. Because when I first saw the initial design, I was like, that's not that great, but actually, this is actually really awesome. And I know the King Ghidorah that will be in Godzilla King of Monsters, of course, looks really awesome, and it's going to be one of my favorite versions too. But this to me is going to go down as one of my favorite monster incarnations. This version of Ghidorah, because what they did was something that Godzilla hasn't really fought before, especially in any of the movies, for that matter. I mean, the closest thing I could think of to this experience was Godzilla in Hell, which is a really good comic. I did a review on that. You could watch it. Really good, and that was more of a Godzilla in a metaphysical realm and metaphysical battle, and very poetic at times. And this is the same thing here, but taken to the freaking 11th degree. Uh, Ghidorah in this movie is basically an eldritch abomination. For those who don't know what that is, an eldritch abomination is basically something that is beyond what we can physically comprehend, and usually portrayed as a monster, but it's beyond your typical, Godzilla type monster. It's something beyond the physical realm of understanding. Although some versions of Godzilla have portrayed him that way, but not to any degree like what it actually means. So, example of eldritch abominations, Cthulhu, of course, we know about that. A god in a whole other world who, as far as I haven't read any H.P. Lovecraft, as you understand, admitting, but as far as I understand, the whole text is, if you even see him, it's like basically like seeing God itself, or destroy you, you'll lose your mind, all that good stuff. And there have been a few examples in cinema, like Hellboy had that. One could argue very much that Alucard himself in the Hellsing Ultimate series is an eldritch abomination. He's not just a single one individual. He's really this monstrosity composed of millions of beings at once, which is the whole point of that series, which is why it's reminding me. And then Ghidorah is basically that in a sense. He's a cosmic entity from a whole other universe. Not another planet, another universe this time. So they were above and beyond with his otherworldly origins. And I just love it. And he also maybe will be one of the most powerful beings in the Godzilla franchise ever. You thought Godzilla Earth was powerful. Kiss Ghidorah. Literally warps reality. In this sense, it reminded me of the movie Cloverfield Paradox that just came out. Except this, to me, was way better done than Cloverfield Paradox, which kind of squandered the whole idea of two realities kind of crashing into each other. to me, I thought this was handled in a much better way, simply because it's more focused. It was a lot more chilling, and I mean, there was just some really awesome dialogue. I don't remember much of the dialogue at all from Cloverfield Paradox. The writing was, yeah. Speaking of which, before I move on, the music in this one, the music has been really good throughout, which surprised me because it's Takayuki Hattori, the guy who did uh, Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla and Godzilla 2000. Scores I thought were decent. Like, I love the Space Godzilla theme. The rest of the soundtrack, yeah, I don't really care for it. Godzilla 2000, once again, I remember it. I think it's a really good score, but to me, it just never felt like a Godzilla score. I didn't really care for it, honestly. But with this trilogy, and especially with this movie, Taketori has mentioned himself to me as one of the great Godzilla composers. There were so many moments in this soundtrack where you will literally feel you're on the verge of tears. You will feel fear, pride for humanity. It's multi-range. It's very good. It's very horror-esque, and like I said, it really did give me that freaking Interstellar 2000 Space Odyssey vibe. They know when to use music. They know when not to use music. They have some interesting battle themes that, as I've seen in comments about the music video online, sound like the GMK soundtrack by Kootoni, and that's very true. But it still stands on its own. It's, like I said, like everything else in the movie, it's a very unique experience, especially for a Godzilla movie, but really for cinema in general. And that new Ghidorah theme, I mean, oh boy, I thought it was excellent. I already downloaded the whole soundtrack. It's fantastic. It's, if you see a movie for nothing else, see if the freaking the visuals and the soundtrack, because the visuals in this were amazing, which is another oddity in itself. Because at the very outset, I was very hesitant for the whole CGI look, but actually, I've come to appreciate it over the year watching these three movies, but especially with this one, because this is the first movie that I really thought that without the CGI, I don't know if they would have been able to just cement how massive and epic of a concept Ghidorah was in this movie. Now, don't get me wrong, hand drawn animation is godly, and I love it a lot more than CGI animation when it comes to things like anime. And maybe they could have easily done that with hand drawn. Maybe hand drawn, well, I actually assume hand drawn probably would have been more expensive. That's probably why they didn't do it. But to me, the CGI here just felt really fitting at capturing the size and scope of Ghidorah, especially since this, once again, Godzilla Earth is big. This Ghidorah is, I guess, the biggest kaiju in record. I want to say maybe in all of cinema history now. I mean, it's literally miles long. So seeing him dwarf Godzilla was just amazing. But so that's Ghidorah. The whole concept behind him, music, the visuals I thought were great. The characters really came through in this one. And this is where we get to the meat of the story, the meat of the whole trilogy, really. I guess it's really, as it really always has been, but really taken once again to a really higher degree with this movie, humanity as a whole. Now, these movies, since the very beginning, the very first movie, that's what it's been all about. You know, man's folly and hubris created Godzilla. Now Godzilla's here to punish us, remind us how weak we are. And this movie follows those concepts, but even to a greater extent. Because certain movies of Godzilla have always touched on this. Other ones have taken slightly different directions, like GMK, which was to remind Japan of their sins, which is really good. Shin Godzilla, which is a movie I don't want to say that leans right wing, but it is a nationalist movie in a sense that is about Japan taking control back. And once again, for those who haven't seen my Shin Godzilla dissection, you may not know what the hell I'm talking about. But to sum it up here, Shin Godzilla was the whole movie was everybody Shin Godzilla probably knows this by now. If you knew anything of what was going on with the politics of the movie, it's all about the U.S.-Japanese relationship and this new era that Japan finds itself in. You know, with their economic collapse, a tsunami, an earthquake that hit them, and there's just new era led by Shinzo Abe and politicians like him who were trying to take Japan into a new era, which could be for better or worse. We'll have to see the years to come. But getting off that, this movie went full on. This one more than anyone of the last two, which really did feel like it too. But this one more than anyone definitely felt like Blue Gender. It had a very Blue Genderish ending. If you haven't seen Blue Gender, I would definitely. If you loved the Anime trilogy, check out Blue Gender, which is another dystopia type movie that questions a lot of humanity, just with more action, of course. But it definitely still has some moments just like this Godzilla Anime trilogy. And the thing I loved about this whole movie, tying into the themes too, which I just honestly one of the first movies in a while that really made me think that much, which is why I enjoyed it so damn much. The dangers of religion, of people becoming sheep, people becoming fanatics, the scope of science and how it affects how we treat the earth, how we treat it as human beings. All those very beautiful themes and very deep themes are tied into this movie. And yes, overall, I definitely, well, here goes a rating right here. If I had to give a movie an overall rating, I would say it's definitely a 9 out of 10 for me. And the only reason why I give it a 9 out of 10, not a 10 out of 10, is because I think there were some parts, very few, very few, I'd say only one or two, that I felt may have gone on for just a little too long, and that they may distract some viewers. But like I said before, if you're really used to a long-ish movie, I should say, because this movie's only less than 2 hours, of course. But if you could sit through a long movie like Interstellar, 2001: Space Odyssey, even Shin Godzilla per se, which once again is not all action, there's a lot of stuff going on between each scene, then this won't bother you as it didn't really bother me because the build up to me, like put it in perspective, just isn't a movie that you would want to be skipping around if you really enjoy it. You will watch it from beginning to end every single time just to get the flow of it because the movie is very interesting in a way that it kind of takes you through a loop because at first you're kind of thinking, is Ghidorah actually real? Is he just an idea? What is going on? What is going on? But that's where the Eldritch Abomination factor seeks in. That Ghidorah is literally a being beyond our reality. He can warp reality around him, and that whole idea of it was frightening, but also just really badass. And it kind of reminded you. Oh, I forgot. As a more popular example I could use, I forgot. I don't know how everybody thought of this. Stranger Things season 2 had a creature to a very similar freaking effect. Very well done as well too. But yeah, I guess I should wrap this up because I got a lot of stuff going on myself. So in summation, well, actually, last thing, the whole character arc between how do I feel about the ending? Obviously, uh, first things first, I will say Medfi is one of the best Godzilla villains in the entire uh, saga, honestly. And not talking about necessarily monsters per se, although he himself is a monster for sure. But definitely one of the best human villains. Something these Godzilla movies usually don't have, and it's very rare they do, and when they do, they're overdone. Although some are just great. In fact, I want to say more or less. I mean, we'll put it this way: there are different levels of Godzilla villain for me. I mean, for the bottom of the rung, you have people like your, generic gangsters in Ghidorah Three-Headed Monster. Well, they were part of a royal, I think, royal rebellion or something like that. People like that, your typical alien invaders. We've seen a dime a dozen. And then there's the higher level, something I think along the lines of Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, which by people I think should give him more credit. They had that I can't remember what his position was. He's like the head of the science institute or something like that. And he was plotting against them the entire time and got a lot of people killed just for his idea of trying to preserve Japan's energy independence. That was really good. And there were a very few human villains like that. And this is just a new god tier. The entire time, which once again I reminded of Hellsing Ultimate, Metaphias is more or less like the Major on another insane level. He's been plotting this whole thing for I want to say decades, centuries, thousands. I'm not really sure how old he is. There's very interesting concepts in the movie when you think about him. Very. So Matthea is great. He started off as an ally, and then I just really didn't see that coming. It's like one of the few villain, because there's business. I want to say, of course, I'm not a super film expert. Just probably haven't belonged before Dark Knight, but I want to say with the Dark Knight there was this whole concept of, it first really became big, the surprise villain. There's the main villain that you're paying attention to, the Joker, Bane, and then out of the blue, well, not out of the blue. Well, I guess you could say Dark Knight Rises more or less, but Dark Knight especially, a villain who's there in secret the whole time, and it becomes really the main real threat, or at least a pawn to it, since Two-Face is still a pawn to the Joker overall. Same way, Matthäus is just a pawn to Ghidorah. But this film did so well that when he finally revealed himself as like this, basically a vessel for Ghidorah to enter our world, I was flabbergasted. Like, what the? I thought he was the one who's going to be their savior, more or less. He had seemed to be built up as the hero, at least, the Alfred to Haru's Batman, the past two films. But he turns out to be a real son of a bitch. Mind warped by something, well, beyond we can understand, I suppose. So that was just fantastic. I dare to think of a better human. He's an alien too, but you know what I mean. A human-like villain for a Godzilla series that's better than that, because there isn't one, as far as I'm concerned. Well, because of Kingdom Monsters, don't know. And then, of course, there's the whole ending with Haru, which, once again, this also reminded me of Blue Gender. The ending, which really questioned where is humanity going, but just like that movie, it's talking about a turn away from technology and its destruction, and maybe returning back to something we can understand as a simple time, just like Blue Gender, which, of course, depending on how you feel about all those things, could say it's a cliche. You could say it's, you've already seen it before, or so you embrace this very interesting take on Godzilla, and it's been talked about before in the previous Godzilla movies, and of course, a real life thing, since by now most people have acknowledged that climate change is very real. If casual readers and actual scientists can all agree that it is actually happening. Yeah, but all, of course, it's just one facet of what's going on with humanity these days, and where humanity is going to head in the future. Now, this movie can be a little bit nihilistic, especially the ending, very dark, but I enjoyed that. After seeing some movies that ended a cheery note, seeing a little darker one, it's a nice little change. So overall, like I said, this is a 9 out of 10 for me. I think it's one of the better Godzilla movies out there, actually. I think it challenges the ideas of what a Godzilla movie can be, and like I said, I think overall, if you, like I said before, if you enjoy a slower-paced movie, deeper-thinking movie, this is for you. A movie that are mind trips, things of that nature, I think you will enjoy that. And like I said, it offers everything else too. Really great character moments, some very interesting plot reveals, very great music and visuals, and overall just a really satisfying end to a really great series. I'm hoping to be able to buy it on DVD or Blu-ray very soon, because it's one of the Godzilla movies I don't own. There's a Godzilla anime trilogy. But that's enough about that. Go watch this on Netflix. I know I'll be watching it again soon, and you guys have a great day.